Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a story that's, well, it's fascinating, but also pretty unsettling. And this one comes from a source you pointed us to, the Wikipedia article about Cecil Jacobson.
That's right. And our mission essentially is to take that article and really unpack this story. It's about a former fertility doctor whose practices went way over the line. We're talking criminal charges, shocking discoveries about paternity. It's quite something.
Yeah, the article lays out this narrative with like two main threads that cross over. There's this pattern of what the article calls false pregnancies.
Yeah.
And then, maybe even more disturbing, this large-scale paternity fraud.
Okay, so let's set the scene a bit. Who was Cecil Jacobson? Born in Salt Lake City in 1936, educated at Brown, then George Washington University. But what's really key, and the article points this out early on, despite focusing on infertility later, he had no specialist training in it.
That's definitely something to keep in mind right from the start.
Yeah.
Now, before his main practice, the article mentions something odd from his earlier career.
Yeah, back in the 60s, he was chief of reproductive genetics at GW Medical School, and he made this really strange claim about impregnating a baboon.
A baboon?
Said he implanted sperm into its abdominal cavity, claimed he terminated it after 4 months, but, and this is the crucial bit in the article, he never published any results. Nothing peer-reviewed.
So just an unverified claim hanging out there, a weird footnote.
Exactly, kind of an early, strange venture.
Okay, so that leads us more towards the main part of the story the article details.
Yeah.
These false pregnancies. After GW, he sets up shop in Fairfax County, Virginia, and he's focusing on women who are really struggling to conceive, right? They're desperate.
Right, and his method, as the article explains it, was just deeply manipulative. He was injecting patients with HCG, that's the hormone pregnancy test to detect.
Ah, okay, so the hormone that naturally occurs during pregnancy.
Precisely. So by injecting it, he could basically guarantee a positive pregnancy test.
So he was manufacturing the positive result.
Yeah.
And the article says the patients felt physical changes too, like early pregnancy symptoms.
Yes, the HCG injections would cause the false positives and trigger some of those physical feelings. And then to keep the illusion going, he'd do ultrasounds.
Okay.
And he'd point things out, claim they were fetuses. But experts who looked at those scans later,
What did they find?
they determined it wasn't a fetus at all. It was, nearby organs, sometimes even just fecal matter in the bowel.
Oh my God. So these poor women believed they were pregnant, saw what they thought was their baby.
Mm-hmm. And then around the 3rd month, he delivered the devastating news. The fetus had supposedly died.
When in reality, they were likely never pregnant in the first place because of his deception.
Exactly. But here's a complication the article notes. Some of his patients did actually get pregnant and have kids under his care. Not through the fake method, but legitimately.
Oh, right. So that must have created confusion, divided opinions.
Totally, even among his patients. Some felt utterly betrayed by the false pregnancies, while others genuinely credited him with helping them start their family. It made things complex.
Okay, so that's one layer of deception. But the article says the story started to really fall apart later
Right.
and took an even darker turn.
Yeah, around 1989, some former patients who felt something was wrong tipped off a local TV station.
And that kicked off an investigation.
It did. Initially focused on the false pregnancies, led to civil lawsuits.
But then the criminal investigation dug deeper.
Right, and that's when this other fraud surfaced. Something related to his anonymous donor insemination program.
How did that work? I mean, how was it supposed to work?
Well, on paper it looked standard. He used code numbers for donors, known only to him, supposedly to keep it all anonymous.
Supposedly.
Exactly, because investigators, according to the article, found basically no evidence that a real diverse donor program actually existed.
Wait, no other donors. So
Right.
where did the sperm come from for the women using the donor service who did get pregnant?
That is the absolute bombshell revelation in the article. Women who had conceived this way agreed to genetic testing,
Yeah.
and the results were clear. Cecil Jacobson himself, he was the biological father.
Wow. Just wow. How many children are we talking about?
The article states at least 7 were identified initially. DNA tests later pushed that to at least 15. And there's suspicion, based on his practice records, that it could be as many as 75.
75 children he fathered using his own sperm, telling patients it was from anonymous donors.
Yes. And maybe the most disturbing detail reported is one specific case where his sperm was used instead of the patient's husband's sperm.
Oh, no. So it wasn't just replacing anonymous donors, but actually replacing the intended father's sample. in at least one instance.
That's what the article reports. So you have these two massive layers of deception running side by side, faking pregnancies entirely for some, and secretly using his own genetic material for others, betraying their trust about donors or even their partners.
It's just staggering. This obviously led to serious legal trouble. Federal prosecutors got involved.
They did. Charges included perjury, because he'd apparently lied in those earlier civil cases, and mail and wire fraud for using mail and phones to carry out the whole scheme.
What was his defense? Did he try to explain any of this? The article mentions his arguments.
Oh, he definitely defended himself. For the false pregnancies, he argued he genuinely thought they were pregnant, claimed his HCG doses were too low for false positives, and the ultrasound mistakes were just honest errors.
Okay. And the sperm donation?
He insisted anonymous donors were real, but he admitted, well, sometimes a donor wouldn't show up, and to meet the patient's timing, he'd use his own sperm as a sort of backup.
A backup.
This-
Seriously.
Yeah.
And the husband's sperm mix-up.
His explanation for that reportedly was maybe some kind of lab contamination, cross-contamination.
So justifications for everything. How did that play out in court? The trial in 1992.
The jury didn't buy it. He was convicted. 52 counts, mail fraud, wire fraud, perjury.
52 counts. What was the sentence?
5 years in prison. And of course, his medical license was revoked. The article adds that his appeals failed. The convictions stood.
Okay, so he served time. What happened after prison?
The article says he moved to Provo, Utah, got involved in agricultural research later on, and he passed away in March 2021 in Springville, Utah, age 84, from health issues.
Quite the life story. And then there's that Ig Nobel Prize mentioned in the article.
Yes, the Ig Nobels. Awarded the biology prize in 1992, the same year he was convicted.
Right. The ones for achievements that make you laugh, then think.
Mm-hmm.
What's the citation? It sounds like it would be pointed.
It really was. The article quotes it for devising a simple, single-handed method of quality control. And it went on to call him a relentlessly generous sperm donor and prolific patriarch of sperm banking.
Simple, single-handed quality control. Wow. Prolific patriarch. That language is just darkly perfect for the Ig Nobels. Captures the absurdity and the horror. It's no wonder this story, as the article points out, bled into popular culture.
Absolutely. Clearly struck a nerve. The article lists quite a few examples. There's a Hulu film, False Positive, that echoes themes, a book called Baby Maker, a specific TV movie in '94, The Baby Maker, the Dr. Cecil Jacobson story. And then influences on episodes of shows like Law and Order, Fringe, Awake, even Reaper.
It really permeated.
Yeah. And it was discussed in Michael Sandel's Justice course at Harvard. Plus, famously satirized on Saturday Night Live, John Goodman played Jacobson.
Oh, I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Wasn't the joke sentence something about a sitcom?
Exactly. Sentenced to star in a sitcom with all the children he'd fathered.
Good grief. Well, that level of cultural footprint shows just how much this story resonated. So looking back at this whole deep dive through the article, what are the main takeaways for you?
For me, it really comes down to the sheer audacity of the deception against people who are incredibly vulnerable, seeking help. It's a profound violation of trust, and it just highlights that power dynamic between doctor and patient, doesn't it? And the lasting ripple effects on families, on the children, it's immense.
Absolutely. And for you listening, it really makes you think, doesn't it? About trust in medicine, or about how hidden actions, even from years ago, can completely rewrite someone's personal history, their identity.
Yeah, and that final point the article implicitly raises, this idea of genetic legacy. Think about it. One person's secret actions creating dozens of half-siblings, all previously unknown to each other, suddenly linked by the shared hidden biological origin. It's a really powerful and kind of disturbing thought to leave you with, drawn straight from the facts of this case.